right, here we go, guys. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Action Lab. I hope you guys are having a fantastic week so far. We have made it to Wednesday, and man, it's looking pretty green in here, Scotty. I wonder why. Is there something going on today? Is there something I should know about?
Not that I'm aware of. I'll be honest. I work in downtown Denver, and normally when I go into work, I'm literally driving into work downtown. I see people at prior to 8 in the morning, usually pass out on the sidewalk, or just can't walk or stumbling because they went to like a kegs and eggs for St. Patty's Day, and they're drunk off their ass. But I didn't see that this morning. I went for a little walk around lunchtime. Didn't see too many drunk people around, so this pandemic must have held some people back. But yeah, St. Patty's Day. We're gonna celebrate with some green. I got myself some. Gonna be
And
drinking that throughout the show. Yeah, yeah.
I should have got me some
Is it bad?
green
I was
food
like, I
coloring.
was like, I was almost certain that's how you make green beer, but I was like, what if it's not? What if there's something else you have to do? So I Googled it.
I mean, food coloring, right? Blue food coloring with yellow beer. Blue and yellow makes green, right? Back to.
Well, what if you have green food coloring? Because I just went with green.
Oh, I mean, I guess that works too. Happy St. Patty's Day, everybody. I hope you guys are having a fantastic St. Patty's. It doesn't feel like a normal St. Patty's Day. I'm used to going out and celebrating. I know we've had a few really, really solid parties back in our day over at your old house in the shop for St. Patty's Day. And those were classic times, man. I miss those.
I know. Pre children and all that stuff. Now, I went into work and I forgot to wear green, and I just felt like a terrible Irish person since I have some Irish background in me, and I failed today. I failed big time, but I'm trying to make up for it with some green beer, some green background. I have underneath here. I have actually a Kansas shirt that's green, so
Oh,
you can't probably
boom.
see it, but
There you
it says
go.
lucky shirt. It says lucky shirt, but once again, I'll keep my clothes on for the show.
Let's
Nobody panic.
please. We already have. I mean, we don't want to lose any more viewers than we already have. So
Yeah,
not
no, understandable.
we have plenty of followers. We don't need more to defect here. Uh, Speaking of followers, we had one follower who popped in over the course of us being offline. RS Parker 36. Thank you for being part of the Lab Rats crew. Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. I hope you end up popping in. If people don't know, that's one of my best friends in the whole world. He's my brother. He's fantastic. He's a Cowboys, chiming in quite a bit today if he ends up popping into the stream. But thank you for the follow.
He's the infamous pork chop we talked about on another episode. If you guys tuned in for that one, he is the infamous pork chop.
That's right. That's right. So, absolutely, we will be doing a lot today. So, man, this is one of the best times for me because we are getting into the March Madness thick of it. So, we had Selection Sunday. We kind of broke down some of the regions and what we thought was potentially some good matchups and maybe some weak regions, strong regions, so on and so forth. But now it's time to put it all out there, man. We are making our picks for the tournament. This whole thing is going to be out there starting today for us as far as what we're picking, who we think is going to win, who's going all the way. So stay tuned. We're going to start off with some free agents, NFL free agency. So there's a lot that's going on with NFL free agency. We want to make sure we touch on that because there's a lot of things, a lot of player movement, a lot of signings, everything. So definitely don't want to just discard that. We're going to touch on that really quick here at the top of the show. And then from there, we're going to shift on to all of our picks, all of our who we think is going to win. And we're going to have some fun with it. So we might even have a little wager in on this one too, Scotty, on who's going to have the better bracket. And then we're going to have to see that unfold over the course of the next few months. Sheridan Parker, thanks for following on Facebook. I appreciate it.
Another one.
There we go. All right. Hey, Cher. I hope you enjoy it all. Hope little Ollie is doing fantastic. So we're going to dive in here. We're going to jump into free agency first. By the way, before we dive in, I want to just give a big shout out to all of our followers so far. If you're not following, do what Sheridan just did and just hit that follow button, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on, Twitch, YouTube, wherever you're catching us. We appreciate it, and you get all those notifications on when we're going live each and every week. We're going live every Wednesday and Sunday, so those are always our standard times. But hey, who knows? We might have a pop-up stream once in a while. You never know when we get a lot of big news coming in, and we just have to get at rolling. So let's dive into our first segment here, and let's talk about some NFL free agency here. So a lot has transpired over the course of the last 3 or 4 days. Now, here's a list of everything that's been going on here. There's a lot of movement here. So let's just start out here, Scotty, and just touch on a couple of these. Some of the headlines or some of the themes that I noticed a little bit. One, a lot of short, 2 to 3 year contracts going on and off here with all these different moves. But also, New England was really, really active. New England it was like a supermarket sweep almost. I mean, have you ever seen that show, Supermarket Sweep, where they just go through the store and they just load up the cart with as much shit as possible? As they put everything in there and they have to have the highest total at the end. That's what New England seems like they're doing.
I mean, didn't they just come back with that show? Because that was like a game show in like the 80s or 90s or something. And I think they just tried to like bring it back. Not sure how it did. I didn't watch it, but I know what you're talking about. So hopefully the other people out there know what we're talking about. But I'll agree. They went through, but they went to all the aisles with like kind of the most average food you can find.
They didn't go to the cheese or the meats. They went to or the coffee. Those are those classic supermarket sweeps. R.S. Parker, Andy freaking D. Yeah. So R.S. Parker, my boy Pork Chop over here, he's a big Cowboys fan. We're going to get to Andy Dalton here in a second. So we'll obviously Cowboys are not worried about him too much. But, yeah, if you guys remember Supermarket Sweep back in the day, man, that was a fun show. And obviously, yeah, you're right. They didn't exactly go on those premium aisles.
I mean, they spent a lot of money and they grabbed a lot of free agents, which is a very anti-New England Patriot, Bill Belichick style. But I think the reason they did it is, one, they failed in the last few drafts. Their acquiring of talent through the draft has been awful over the last few years, and the guys they signed, they overpaid for. Like, listen, I do like the signings. They got the top 2 tight ends on the market. I think those are the 2 best additions they grabbed, along with Matt Judon, I like from Baltimore quite a bit on the defensive line. And then, obviously, Jonnu Smith at tight end and Hunter Henry. We both had those in our top 10 free agents on the offensive side. But the amount they're paying him, like those 2 combined are making, over twice the amount of money that Travis Kelce is alone for the Chiefs. Like, it's just a wild amount of money they gave to 2 guys that have never had 1,000-yard seasons. Like, haven't done that. Solid talented guys. And Bill Belichick's trying to get back to that 2 tight end set that he loved back when he had Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski that worked so great. So we'll see what happens. Like, they signed some wide receivers, which they needed, but they overpaid for Nelson Aguilar. Like $13 million a year to me is wild for Nelson Aguilar, especially in a wide receiver market that's been proven to be really, really down and people aren't signing. So at the wide receivers, and then they signed like Bourne from San Francisco, who's, maybe a slot guy as a wide receiver, nothing big. So they signed a lot of guys. They made a lot of headlines. I don't think that's going to do anything for them, especially because that third name on the list is still, as of right now, their quarterback.
Yes. Cam Newton.
That's a problem.
Cam Newton returning to the New England Patriots on a 1-year deal. Now, obviously, 1 year, $5 million, that's like nothing. So I guess, in the grand scheme of things, you'll take what you can get. I feel like there's a lot of teams that are just band-aiding their quarterbacks. So, you had Washington, Band-Aid, like that as far as Fitzmagic going over there.
But I still, I love me.
Yeah, I know you like your Fitzpatrick.
I think they're going to compete in that division this year for sure. I mean, they won it last year, but they got a better quarterback now than they did last year. So,
R.S. Parker, panic button. Panic button for who are you talking about? You got the panic button for a specific team, or let us know. Yeah, I think there's just a lot of people that like Andy Dalton. That's definitely a as Parker mentioned in the chat. That's one that's kind of strange, and he's kind of glad to get him away from Dallas, right? I mean, think about this: the Chicago Bears got Andy Dalton, and their championship aspirations in Vegas actually took a step backwards. I don't know if you saw this, Scotty. It was
I was going to bring this up, and we did not talk about this. So
no.
I'm glad you saw it too.
It was like all over the place, and I was just like, how do you get a brand new quarterback for your team, and then your odds for the winning the Super Bowl get worse? Like that doesn't happen ever. Parker in the chat, New England.
For sure panicking. Obviously, Belichick will just watch his boy Brady win a Super Bowl without him, and Belichick can't have that. There's always been the debate of who's more important, Belichick or Brady. Now that Brady's won one, Belichick's going all in with overpaying for some average to above average players.
Yes. Lisa Kim, thanks for the follow in Facebook chat. Appreciate it. That means so much, and we're glad to have you part of our crew. So thank you so much. Yeah, so there's been a lot of different moves here that just are just crazy to me. Your boys end up pulling Joe Thuney, who we talked highly about in our previous show. Now, he's fantastic, 5-year, $80 million deal. I mean, he's going to be a solid guy for Kansas City to fill in some of those gaps for the line.
Yeah, obviously we need to revamp that line. We let go of both our tackles. A lot of, obviously the Super Bowl was a disaster. Joe Thuney was the top offensive guard, certainly on the market by far this year. A guy New England let go, and I guess New England wanted back, but Kansas City won that battle. Helping out at guard, they just today signed Kyle Long, who former Pro Bowler, who's been out of the league, retired for a couple years due to some injuries, but he's been working hard to get back. Another guard that they'll have. They went hard after Trent Williams, who was, the top free agent in all of football this year, the left tackle. The 49ers ended up paying $23 million a year over 6 years to keep him. Not playing around there. I know the Chiefs were willing to go to at least 20, if not a little more, but I guess the bottom line was he'd rather take $3 more million and block for Jimmy Garoppolo than take $20 million and block for Patrick Mahomes. It's all good. It's all good. We'll figure it out. But yeah, no, it's good that the Chiefs are addressing the O-line, and I think they got some moves ahead. So we'll see. Maybe they add a wide receiver. I think they're in the tight end market. There's a lot of rumors that Zach Ertz is on the market for trade. We'll see. I've heard the Chiefs are interested in him. He'd be an interesting guy if you can have a Kelsey and a Ertz at tight end. That's not a bad 1-2 combo. Probably a little better than Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry in New England that just paid wildly for them. So,
I mean, Ertz and Kelsey as a tight end as dual tight end. Those are starting number one tight ends for just in any team in the NFL. Then you throw them both on the same team. That would be insane. So I don't know. I would be terrified of that because the Broncos definitely can't guard any tight ends whatsoever. That's one of our weakest points on our defense is our linebacker core to cover those tight ends. So, it is what it is. But, man, there's still some unsigned people here. So Juju Smith-Schuster, you got Will Fuller, Jadeveon Clowney, Patrick Peterson, and Melvin Ingram.
Update, Patrick Peterson did just sign right before our show started. So he is going to Minnesota on a 1-year, $10 million deal. Minnesota Vikings signing him to 1 year, $10 million. And I feel like that's a reputation wage right there. I don't feel like the last couple of years he's played up to that $10 million billing, but that's if he gets it, good for him.
But the Arizona Cardinals have been pretty busy too. Arizona has been making some big moves. Ended up pulling a wide receiver today.
Yep. I'm drawing a blank on who they got, but I'm thinking of their trade. They traded for all-pro center from Las Vegas, the Raiders, Rodney Hudson, which is somebody that they said they were going to release. Rodney wasn't happy with the Raiders. They traded him and swapped like 3rd and 7th with the Raiders, which was huge. And now AJ Green. I just needed to think about it for a second. I didn't look it up or anything. AJ Green did sign with Arizona. Arizona to me is like a young and up and coming team. So some of these signings with like AJ Green and JJ Watt are like weird and like you're forcing the issue. Why wouldn't you try and get guys on the team that are going to be there and develop that core for many years? But these are guys that could help. So I can't hate it too much. It's just not the strategy I would go in if I were Arizona. But the Rodney Hudson thing to me is actually their most important thing. They needed a center. Obviously, they have a little guy right behind him in Murray that needs protection, especially within the pocket and not a lot of try to avoid the batted balls. So I think he's going to be huge for them. He's a stud.
R.S. Parker, I know you always draft I know you're there in the chat. You're always drafting AJ Green in every fantasy league every single year for the last 10 years. So you're going to be all about AJ Green going to Arizona. I can't wait for you to draft him one more time next year. There was some funny memes actually that were whatchamacallit, Fitzgerald just in there being like the old man showing all the young guns around. Like, there are memes of like this old guy just walking around touring a facility with these young kids like on a field trip, and it's like showing the new receivers the ropes and everything. So funny. Yeah, it was incredible, all the memes that were popping up. But hey, Fitzgerald he's still there, he's still alive and kicking, right? He hasn't retired yet, but speaking of retirement, we do have a Freeze has retired, so he is gone. He is which is good. I think New Orleans was actually terrified that he would come back for another year from previous memes, and I was on Twitter, when there were some rumors that he was going to come back, and New Orleans fans were just tweeting out like, "Please no!" Like I get he's a legend, and I get he's like amazing, and he's had a great career, but the fact that he's coming back was one of those. I don't know about this completely, but I know there is some commentary out there about the Saints and how good they'll be without Drew Brees. Now, they signed, as you'll notice on here, Jameis Winston to a 1-year, $12 million deal. So he's going to be back. He's going to most likely be the starter for the New Orleans Saints, which he can do some things, right? He's definitely proven that he can, put up some numbers, but he's also proven he could put up some bad numbers at the same time. So it's just what kind of Jameis Winston are you going to get moving forward? And I've seen comparisons to the New England Patriots of 2020 with this team about they're going to be semi-competitive, but maybe not as competitive as you would think they would be. So we'll see how New Orleans ends up panning out after this. But yeah, gonna be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Jameis is a guy that can give them. He's going to throw 35 touchdowns next year. It's just 5 are probably to the wrong team, but he can move the ball. He forces the ball downfield. He's almost the opposite of Drew Brees. So it's kind of ironic that he's the guy that's going to replace him. Where Drew Brees would get the ball out of his hands and throw short. Jameis likes to just throw it up, and so they need to find guys that can win 50-50 balls to in that wide receiving core. Obviously, they have Michael Thomas. We'll see if Jameis ever checks down to the running back like he should when obviously when they have an elite guy there, but in pass catcher. But I we'll see what happens. I mean, I don't think the Saints are in a position right now where they're Super Bowl contenders. When you have Winston, they had cap issues, so they had to lose some guys in the free agency and stuff. I'll say right now, my favorite team in free agency so far has actually been the New York Jets, which is and they've only signed like 2 guys, but I love both the signings. They signed
Carl Johnson.
I think it's Carl Lawson. So I think we had a typo there. Not a big deal. Carl Lawson,
never typo.
The defensive end from Cincy, who was one of my favorite. He gets after the quarterback. Even then, he didn't have a ton of sacks, but his pressure rate was super high. Love that for them. Now he can play next to, oh man, who's their interior guy they drafted a couple years ago? Quinnen Williams. And that's going to be a 1-2 punch on that D line. That's going to be real dangerous. And then they signed Corey Davis, who's not on this list, but Corey Davis, a wide receiver from Tennessee, who was a 1,000-yard pass catcher last year. I think that's going to help a lot. We think they're going to have a new quarterback. They'll probably take a guy at number 2 in the draft. but we'll see what happens there. But to get a guy like Corey Davis is going to help whoever that quarterback is a lot. So I love those two signings for the Jets and kind of like the direction. Love their head coach. I like the direction the Jets are going. They got a lot of work to do and a long ways to go, but I think the Jets are going the right direction.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Jets fans have something really exciting brewing. I mean, I feel like they're in the right direction and rebuilding what they have already started. It's going to be interesting to see what happens at quarterback and how they navigate that, because obviously there's teams that are interested in trading. So who knows what's going to happen there? But at the same time, yeah, they're making the right moves in my opinion. I think they're going to be right there and competitive. I don't know if there's still a couple, maybe a year or two away from competing in this division, because obviously the other teams in this division outside of Indianapolis, New England. I'm sorry. The other two teams have been battling out, and Buffalo and Miami have been kind of those teams that have risen over the last year to being really, really competitive there in that spot. So we'll see. They're not that far behind, and I think they can get there within the next year or two potentially. So,
yeah, obviously, who their quarterback is moving forward matters a lot. And speaking of quarterbacks on the move, though, did you hear the Deshaun Watson news?
So yes, I have heard the Deshaun Watson news. This is big news for if you're a Denver fan, a San Francisco fan, and then going to Carolina. But yeah,
So we haven't talked about this, so I'm glad you set this up for me. I not only am I confident, but I put my money where my mouth is that he will be a Carolina Panther. I got from a source that's pretty locked in and usually always right. He actually, mentioned today, like, hey, where can I get the best odds for putting money on Deshaun Watson becoming a Carolina Panther? And he basically said, Deshaun not wanting to be a Carolina Panther is not true at all. Not that he doesn't want to be, like, the rumor that came out this week, if you didn't hear, was like he wants to be either with the Niners or Broncos. I heard that's not true at all. First of all, if you're really trying to get out of a place, I don't think you're going to be like, hey, I really want to leave, but these are the only two teams I'm going to go to. You're going to be like, just get me out of here. So I don't believe that hype. I don't believe that it's just the one person. We'll have to see what happens, but I think, and I put a substantial bet on Deshaun Watson being a Carolina Panther.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Well, I feel like as far as that goes, they have the most to offer, so it's hard to just go against that. Now, when it comes to them making a trade for what's going to make their team the best, obviously Houston doesn't care who Deshaun Watson goes to. They care what they get in return. So, given the fact that Carolina has just dumped salaries and they've done everything they can to create as much space and assets and do whatever they can to get Deshaun Watson, I mean, honestly, I still think they're going to do whatever they can. So, I don't think I can disagree with the fact that he could end up in Carolina just based off of what they can offer. So I'll give him that. As much as I love it, like the fact that the Niners and the Broncos are still in the mix, cool. Like that's fantastic. It just depends on what those teams can do to outbid Carolina, and I just don't think they can based off of what they have to offer. So that's the only thing there. But it feels exciting though. It feels good. I appreciate the fact that they're in the mix because that's what makes it exciting, right? Our GMs kind of, working the phones obviously enough to, obviously you got John Lynch over in San Francisco working the phones, trying to do what he can to make a case for himself as well. But I think Carolina is the one that is going to be the front runner there. So yeah.
If I had to pick who Denver, because I think Denver will bring somebody in to at least sort of compete or at least be a veteran backup. I could see it, and I think it's going to come possibly through trade. I think like Gardner Minshew, who's not necessarily a veteran, but has obviously played some time in the league. Nick Foles, or Sam Darnold. I think those are the three names that I would rank at the top right now as far as guys they're more likely to end up with one of those guys to go along with Drew Lock and then have like a little QB competition.
Yeah, no, for sure. So any other names on this list that kind of just stood out to you? We got Bud Dupree, Nelson Aguilar. We got Shaq Griffin. What else on this list? Anything else before we shift over?
I like John Johnson of Cleveland a lot. I think Cleveland's biggest weakness for sure on their defense was their safety tandem. So getting John Johnson from the Rams, who's been a solid piece to that defense that we talked about, and he was one of our top 10 defenders. I like that for Cleveland. Cleveland's going to be a damn tough out this year. Cleveland's going to be good. As long as they don't get in their own head and hype themselves up to think they're better than they are. So I think they'll be real good. I like that signing a lot. One of the guys on this list that's unsigned, Kenny Golladay, reported he is traveling. He was injured pretty much a lot of last year. So he's traveling to the New York Giants in anticipation that as everything medically checks out, that they will reach an agreement and he will be on the New York Giants. He's the top wide receiver on the market. So that'll be a nice piece for the Giants. But the wide receiver market in general, like that Juju is still out there. Will Fuller is still out there. Curtis Samuels is a guy that could help a lot of teams that's out there. So the wide receiver market has not panned out for these guys like they thought. Sammy Watkins from the Chiefs is still out there. So we'll see. I think that might help a team like the Chiefs actually just tell a player like, hey, you're not getting the money you want. Why don't you come take a 1-year deal with us and you get single coverage every play with Patrick Mahomes throwing you the ball. Not a bad deal. Hype up your worth, and then when the salary cap explodes next year, go get whatever you need. Go get your big deal because it's not coming this offseason. So why wouldn't you just go to a team like the Chiefs that can feature you where you're not getting doubled because Tyreek and Kelsey are already there?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting for sure. Now, there's still a lot to happen here. There's still a lot that's going to be happening when it comes to everything. There's a lot of trades going to be happening down the pipeline. There's still a lot of names that haven't been signed. So we're going to be diving into this more and more as the weeks go on. But as far as everything else goes, yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see who ends up winning some of these free agent battles. And we're going to go into that once things have kind of settled, once the dust is settled, and we're going to go in and figure out who made a step up, who maybe stayed the same, and who maybe took a step backwards based off of this. Obviously, if you're looking at this already, Chicago has already taken a step backwards based off of their Vegas odds. So, we're going to take a little bit of a quick break, like literally like a 30-second break before we transition over to our big March Madness special here. So bear with us, and then we're going to be right back in a second. Still, don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. Just hang tight. We'll see you here in a few.